We're out here on the 2019 KTM 150 SX. Got some brand new tires on this thing. It was well overdue. My previous tires were like several years old. I don't know how many hours they had on them, maybe 60, 70, something like that. They were beat. Gonna feel good to have some fresh rubber. Got our, we've really been enjoying this nice new tall gut seat on here. Put some taller bars on it. Got the Electron Pro Series 38 carb with the accelerator metering rod. Got this thing running absolutely crispy. Alright, so I'm gonna head out on the track on this thing, and I'm gonna talk while I'm riding and review the bike while I'm out there on the track. But I'm gonna try to come up with my 3 most loved things about it, and then 3 things I dislike about it. I think that'll give you like a good idea of what the bike is like before you go out and buy one. It'd be great if you could test ride them, but not everyone gets that situation. First things on the list, we'll start with the 3 things that I like. This bike is really easy to love when it's running right. I think the number one thing I love about the KTM 150 is the sound of it, man. Because it's a 2-stroke, there's just something about ringing out a 2-stroke that's so much fun. And the sound of this 150 just makes it like really enjoyable to ride. So fun factor and the sound of it, I'll throw it into number 1. Like a small bore 2-stroke is regarded as probably the most fun bike that you could ride. All right, so number 2 on the list is the handling of this thing. This bike handles really, really well. I'm not necessarily talking about the suspension. I'm talking about how this thing corners, how it feels in ruts, how it feels in berms. Like, one of my favorite things about the handling, it likes to stay really straight. It doesn't really feel like wallowy like some other bikes can. When you're going through a corner or a rut and you're leaning it over, it seriously wants to stay like really nice and straight the front end, and I love that. Third thing I like about this is how lightweight it is. When you have a bike that weighs less than 200 pounds, it's so easy. It's so easy to move it around on the track. It's so easy to get it up and off on the stand. Oh my God, can't see. We're gonna cut the track to stay with Sammy. So I was saying that the third thing is how lightweight this bike is. I absolutely love how lightweight it is. Being under 200 pounds, it truly feels like when you're out on the track, it almost feels like a mountain bike compared to other 4-strokes. And that leads to confidence in like flicking it around in the lines. So like flicking it around on the track, because it's so lightweight, it's so nice. You don't get tired as easily, but also when you get back to the truck, you gotta put it on the stand. It's really nice to have a bike that's not 250 pounds or whatever the 450s weigh. So that's probably the third thing I like about this bike. Now I guess I got to talk about dislikes. I don't really like I don't really dislike a whole lot about this bike. It's a great bike. Oh. But if I got to pick three things, I would say number one is that it's carbureted. All that means is when a bike's carbureted, if it's not running absolutely perfect, your confidence isn't going to be there. The number one thing that makes a rider confident is knowing what the bike's going to do in all situations, especially the throttle. And if the bike is a little too rich and it's sputtery, or if it's a little too lean and it's bogging, that's not going to make you feel confident and like ripping around the track, hitting jumps. So it takes, if you're new to carburetors, it might take a little bit of time to get used to jetting, learning it, and figuring out how to jet your bike properly. And that's something that a lot of people just don't want to do. I don't really want to do that. I ride all the time, and I don't want to worry about jetting a carburetor. That's why I got Electron on this thing. I'd say number two dislike on this bike is the stock suspension. The stock suspension on this bike leaves a little bit to be desired. It's not terrible. It's just hard to compare it to something like good stock KYB on a Yamaha. If you get it revalved, it's much better. But most people agree. Most people agree that the air fork just isn't as good as a lot of spring forks that are out there on other bikes. My third dislike on this KTM 150 it just has to do with the nature of it being a small bore two-stroke. You have to shift it. To keep it in the meat of the power, you got to shift this thing a lot. Like compared to 250Fs that just have so much torque and lugging power, you got to shift this thing a lot to like keep it revved up in the corners. For a small bore two-stroke, the 150 actually has some pretty good torque. Like obviously, it has more usable torque than the KTM 125, but definitely more than the YZ 125 too. More power overall. So yeah, if I had to find 3 dislikes, that would probably be it. The stock carburetors just can be annoying. Stock carburetors can be annoying to deal with. The stock suspension isn't as good as other bikes. And you gotta shift it a lot. But otherwise, I think my 3 likes outweigh the dislikes. Like how fun this bike is outweighs the 3 dislikes that I have by a mile. I love riding this thing. It's so satisfying when you do things right. When you get it really screaming on the pipe. I do think it teaches you a lot about dirt bike riding too. Compared to like a YZ 250F, I mean any 250F, you gotta shift this thing more. There's no engine braking. So you gotta use the brakes more. You gotta use the clutch more. It just overall takes a lot more work to ride this bike than 250Fs. But in a way, it's kind of what makes it fun. Like, you feel like you're really working hard to keep this thing ripping, and you feel like you're in full control of everything at all times. So when you do it right, man, is it rewarding. Like, hitting corners on this on a screaming two-stroke, that's so much more satisfying than on four-stroke. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. 3 likes, 3 dislikes. Of this beautiful 2019 KTM 150 SX. Overall, it's just a wicked fun bike, and I highly recommend you buying it. I think it'll make you a better rider. Just got to work for it a little bit more. And overall, oh, that was sketchy as hell. Overall, I think it'll make you a better rider. I think it'll bring some fun back to your riding if that's what you're looking for. Get on a two-stroke, screaming around, have fun. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Please leave a like if you did. It really helps out my channel. If you have any more questions, I hope I answered some of your questions that I've seen in the comments in the past. But if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them down in the basement below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!